Welcome to UK Virtual School, a school without walls.
So we are going to go to Scotland is the general gist, in case you haven't picked that up. So Sid's sort of vision for UKVS is to have these residential trips running semi-regularly. And we figured we would go with Scotland because it's relatively easy for most of us to get to as far as the school goes. And also I really enjoy Scotland and I have some friends up there who I used to work for doing wildlife tours. And so it kind of adds a little bit of uniqueness to it. So we want to go to Scotland and experience the culture, the history and the wildlife, which is what I'm really interested in. So we've got Scotland's cool, basically. Ryan, you know this already. But Scotland's got like its own unique history that I think a lot of people in England especially don't necessarily see and appreciate. So it'd be really cool to take everyone up there. And also we get to spend time with each other, which would be awesome. So like Sid, Eloise and I have never actually met in person, for example. We had a discussion in the staff meeting the other day, how tall are you? None of us know how tall each other are, which is a really weird thing to have about your co-workers.
Hannah's short. She tells us she's short. So
I'm not a tall person and most people think I am for some reason. So this is a chance for not only us to meet up, but also for you guys to meet as parents. You can talk with other parents from UKVS and sort of coordinate on how homeschooling's worked for you guys, how all of that kind of stuff, and also for the kids to meet face to face, which would be awesome. So Rafe is in the same class as Aaron. And Caitlin and Nandina are the same age. So it would be really cool to sort of, meet each other and sort of share that experience. So the three of us are going to go. So stand by for awkward pictures, guys, of yourself. So the three of us are going to go. So I'm sort of taking the lead on this because Scotland is, like Sid said, it's been my sort of the home of my heart while I've been out of New Zealand. In case you can't tell, I'm from New Zealand. And Scotland to me feels very similar. Whenever I go there, I always feel a bit like, yes, this is my kind of place. So if you have questions about Scotland specifically, then ask me. More administration sides of it, payment, that kind of thing, Sid or Masaki or Hyacinth will be the ones. And then Eloise is coming along as well because she wants to come along. So yeah, Eloise is the world views teacher. They're going to be looking at Scotland next month. Yep, so then kind of in a lead up to it. Yeah, so the idea is it will be a 5-ish days. It's sort of 2 of those days are for traveling to and from Scotland, because let's be honest, it's a bit of a hoof for some of us. Ryan, obviously you have an advantage over the rest of us being already there. So the first day is going to be the 27th of May. That's a Friday. And we'll all get to Edinburgh, which however you want to do that, you get there. There's trains, there's planes, you can drive as well. Driving would be preferable in many ways because it's cheaper. We don't have to include transport from one place to another. If we all have cars, that will lower the cost on things. Ryan, obviously the transport fee is free. So once we're in Edinburgh, we'll settle in. And I kind of, if the weather is good, a lot of these activities are if the Scottish weather plays ball, which sometimes it does. A lot of the time it's absolutely beautiful up there. So and we'll go for a walk up Arthur Seat because you can see the whole of Edinburgh from there and, enjoy it being a volcano, and I'll nerd out about rocks and someone else will nerd out about other bits, I'm sure, and we can all enjoy that. Then, so the proper sort of activities as such will begin on day 2. So we'll go to Edinburgh Castle. Because we are an educational facility, we can do educational programs at the castle. So depending on what ages of kids we get, at the moment, everyone's secondary. So that's really cool. We can have a more secondary based education program facilitated by Edinburgh Castle, which and if we choose to, and then go for a wander through Edinburgh. Edinburgh is really cool in that it's got two sides to it. There's the old town and the new town, and there's lots of really cool history to see through that. And yeah, enjoy that aspect of it. Then the third day, which would be the 29th, we will try and go to the National Art Gallery, one of the National Art Galleries in Edinburgh. This will be probably Sid's area of expertise. Art is not my strong suit, as many students will tell me when I try and do any form of art. Or so that so we'll go and go and see the artwork. There's the portrait gallery there, loads of cool things to go and see in the morning, and then we will travel to Oban. So Oban is a small town, well, not that small actually. It's a reasonable sized town that is sort of the entryway to the Hebrides. So the Hebridean Islands are the islands off the coast of Scotland, and it's a port town. It's got a very port feeling to it. You get there and you're obviously, this is a port town. And the drive there is awesome. We'll drive through Loch Lomond, see all the hills and the lakes. We can probably stop and appreciate some of that along the way. And once we get to Oban, which is one of my favorite towns in Scotland, on the day 4, we're going to go and harass the wildlife. So by harass, I mean appreciate from a sensible distance. So this used to be my job before I became a teacher. This was my last marine science job before I began teaching, was taking people out to go and appreciate the wildlife of Scotland. Specifically, I would take them snorkeling with seals, sharks, sometimes dolphins would rock up. You're not allowed to get in the water with dolphins, but if they are there when you're already in the water, great. So there are 3 options on this day. There's the swimming with seals. So we'll go snorkeling with seals. If you do need to be able to swim up to a certain point, as in you need to be comfortable in being out of your depth in the water, but you'll be in a really thick wetsuit. So floating is not an issue. In fact, floating is like the easiest thing you can do in these wetsuits. So you'll be warm, you'll be floating around, and hopefully the seals, they are true wild creatures, so hopefully they'll come up and say hi. They're often very fascinated by humans, and they're often always behind you. That's pretty, if you haven't seen a seal when we go swimming with them, they'll be behind you like all the time. We can also go do wildlife watching from the boat. So at the moment, the puffins are in town. They will be leaving on the 4th of August. They're very punctual creatures. They go back out to sea on the 4th of August. So there's puffins around, there's guillemots and razorbills and gannets, and the very rare white-tailed sea eagle is up there as well, which is the 3rd largest eagle still alive. I think it's got like a 2.5 meter wingspan. It's massive. And those are all around there as well. And then if you're feeling like maybe actually going out on the boat is a bit much, which to be honest, I think knowing all of your kids, I think they'll be fine. And we'll be somewhere quite sheltered. So seasickness won't be so much of an issue. But if you, for whatever reason, feeling like not going out on the boat, then there's loads of like coastal activities to do around there. I can point you in the direction of some rock pools. Sid's got some microscopes. We can go and look at stuff in rock pools under microscopes, that kind of thing. So for me, the aspect of Edinburgh is awesome because I love Edinburgh as a city. But this is my jam. This is probably the thing that may be more unique to our experience, is that is being able to go and do this wildlife stuff in and around Oban. And yeah, so this is, so I messaged my friend Shane, who runs Basking Shark Scotland, here at the company that I used to work for, and sort of said, I'm thinking of organising this trip. And he sent me this picture of where he was last year, and he said, this would be great for you guys because it's real kid friendly. It's got a castle. We can go swim all in around these rocks, see all the kelp forest. So it's all kelp forest there. You can stick your head in and amongst the kelp. If you look around, if you want really cool photos, look up Basking Shark Scotland. Their marketing is amazing. Like, they do really cool tours. So because he's my friend and I'll be doing the guiding for him, we've got a bit of a sweet deal. So we'll go out. So this is the boat in the bottom here. It's can take up to 10 people, plus me as guide and boat captain. or 10 or 12 people for that one. Sorry. And yeah, it's got like a nice enclosed area, which is good in Scotland, because although most of the pictures we've seen so far are clear blue skies, sometimes it gets a bit atmospheric. So it can be a bit cold sometimes, and can be a bit windy, but May is one of the more settled times of year in Scotland. So May, June are actually really settled compared to if we went in August, when the weather is much more unpredictable. So it's actually a really good time to go, and the water's quite clear. The plankton hasn't come in yet, which is what brings in the basking sharks. So there might be some basking sharks around, which are the second biggest shark in the world. They're about 10 meters long, perfectly friendly, no teeth. Well, they've got very, very small teeth. They'd be like very tiny, but they might be around, which would be cool. But otherwise, the seals, the dolphins, the whales, all of that stuff is up around there as well. And then on the last day, we will return back to Edinburgh if we're traveling as a collective, or we just leave straight from then, from Oban, depending on how it all works out with us, with all cars and transport, that kind of thing. So that's the general overview. So the 31st is a Tuesday. So Ryan, for you, probably day 2, 3, and 4, that's the Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's actually the day of proper activities, as opposed to traveling to and from and doing the more logistical sides of it. Then, yeah, so with transport, that's one of the largest costs of this. When Sid and I were going through the cost, we're like, okay, accommodation, that makes sense. Yep, cool. And then we looked at the paying for activities and paying for the wildlife watching, like, yeah, cool. And then we looked at transport, like, oh, okay. So the transport between, we can, if you choose to, there's an option where we'll provide transport between Edinburgh and Oban and back. Or if you decide to drive up and drive, then it will save a lot of money on, well, it will save £100 per person on transport. So to get to Edinburgh, you can fly. So you can fly into Edinburgh Airport, or you can fly into Glasgow, which is Paisley. And it takes about 2 hours by train from Glasgow to Edinburgh. The advantage of flying into Glasgow is a lot closer to Oban. So if on the Tuesday, if you didn't want to spend as much time on the Tuesday traveling, then you could fly out of Glasgow. Glasgow, I think, is 2.5 hours from Oban, as opposed to it being 4.5 hours to Edinburgh. So that's an option of flying if you want, if on the Tuesday you're like, actually, I don't have a lot of time. And the same for train. There are trains up to Edinburgh all the time. Same with trains to Glasgow. There's even an overnight train. I don't think any of you guys are based in London, but there's an overnight train from London that goes up to Edinburgh if you want to really maximize your time. The things that are going to be covered in the cost that we'll talk about in a sec are accommodation and breakfast. For lunch and dinner, because of like dietary restrictions and things, we just figured we'll go out and we'll all collectively, well, not collectively, we'll do our own thing for lunches and dinners. When we're in Oban, I do have a definite recommendation for fish and chips, if that seems like something that's needed in life. There's a really good fish and chip shop that I used to go to too frequently, I would argue, when I used to live there. It was definitely too often, but yeah, it's a really good shop. Anyway, so the cost breakdown, it includes accommodation. If you want to do driving, then it won't cover the transport between Edinburgh and Oban. If not, or if you choose to do the transport option, then it will cover the transport from Edinburgh to Oban and back. It doesn't cover your costs getting to Edinburgh, because we're all across the world. We can't, well, across the UK. That's kind of difficult to put into price plans. It'll cover the cost of our activities, and it will cover the cost of breakfast. So the activities include Edinburgh Castle, going to one of the art museums, and the wildlife watching, and then all of the traipsing around the city, looking at everything, which is always a free option, but you know, it's part of one of the activities anyway. So with the cost breakdown, you can pick your option. So with the day 4 option, with when we're going wildlife watching, you can either pick if you want to come swim with the seals. That would include kit hire. So you will be provided with wetsuits appropriate to the climate. They are very, very thick, as well as mask, snorkel, and fin. and you'll get me as a guide. I come as part of the equipment. Then there's the just going out on the boat option or going on the shore option. Then you decide if you're going to, how you're going to get there and transport. So if you're bringing your own car, it's $399 per person. If you're coming by public transport and you want us to provide the Edinburgh to Oban and back transport, then it's $499 per person. Ryan, this would be different for you because you don't need accommodation, so we'll look at that. We are looking for a deposit by Monday, just so that we can start looking at booking in properly accommodation. So we've already tentatively booked accommodation with in Edinburgh and Oban. We've already tentatively booked with the company doing wildlife watching, and the sooner we can confirm those numbers, then the cheaper it will be for us, which would be very, very nice. Yeah, and then the full payment by the end of the month, and then we'll know more about trip numbers specifically then. Are there any questions so far? I sort of rambled through that quite quickly.
What is the lodging in Oban? Like, what kind of situation is it?
So I think we put down we were going to stay in a hotel there. There's a couple of hotels scattered around Oban. We'll probably be in, well, it depends how many people come. We may end up being in 2 different hotels. The Oban is very, have you been to Oban yet, Ryan? No, it's quite small. So everything is on the seashore, on this like coastfront, or it's like 5 minutes walk from the coast. So they'll all be in the center of Oban, and they will include breakfast. They're very classically Scottish on the inside. They've got, you know, a very classic Scottish interior. I would describe it as a lot of hardwood, soft furnishings. But yeah, they seem like quite nice hotels. Normally I stay in the hostel there, so I'm quite looking forward to doing a fancy night stay. Are there any other questions at the moment? Yeah. Cool.
Welcome to UK Virtual School, a school that thinks differently.